My name is Jacqueline Burkell, and I am an associate professor in the Faculty of Information and Media Studies at the University of Western Ontario and also the acting associate vice president research. I'm very pleased to be part of this panel on AI and explanations, and what I want to talk to you about today is a particular kind of explanation or a particular context for explanation, and that is explanations in the context of AI making decisions, making judicial decisions. So what is an explanation? Well, it actually would be more accurate to say what are explanations or what various forms can explanations take. In fact, when we're talking about explainable AI in a very limited sense, explanations of AI decisions could constitute explanations of or provision of the detail of the algorithms. They could constitute an understandable model of how the system works. They could constitute a list of influential inputs into the decision-making process. It could also constitute, or they could also constitute instructions or information about how a different outcome might have been achieved. That's not a fulsome list. It's not a complete list of the various kinds of explanations that one could provide. But what it gives you an idea of is that what is an explanation is determined very critically by who's asking and what they're asking about. I want to talk about one particular place in which there is a real possibility that AI will be used to render decisions, and in which we already have an existing model of what explanations for those decisions need to look like, and that's the context of judicial decisions. So judges are used to rendering decisions, and in some cases, those judges also provide judicial reasons. Those are reasons for the decision that is rendered. So it provides us with an interesting context to think about AI decisions, and anything we conclude here would be specific to that context. That is, what we understand about explanations in this context won't necessarily translate to other contexts, but it's critical in the specific context we're talking about. And that's something that I want to return to in the end. Judicial reasons have a legal form and function. They set out precedent for the decision. They provide a record for appeal. They demonstrate errors of law. They explain the case law. They enhance certainty in the decision. These are generally legal-facing aspects of the explanation. That is, they're written for and in some sense are consumed by the legal professionals, often lawyers and other judges who are reading the decisions. There's also another function of judicial reasons that is public-facing. These are public accountability documents. They provide a guide to public behavior. Judges are saying to the public, this is how one ought to behave. They respond to litigant needs. They show respect for litigants. They provide litigants with agency and a sense of participation. So the first thing we can recognize about these explanations is that they serve two very different functions. And that's going to be a complexity for an AI explanation that will have to be addressed. So judicial reasons are obvious models for the kinds of explanations we need to provide in judicial contexts, in judicial decision-making contexts. So we can ask ourselves two questions. First of all, how do judges write these decisions? And second of all, how do audiences receive these decisions? So how are they written? These kinds of explanations could be procedural accounts of how a decision that was reached, but they're not. They could be a listing and weighting of attributes. For example, a listing of prior cases, precedents, and a weighting of those as how they contributed to the decision-making outcome, but they're not. It turns out that judicial reasons are more like post hoc justification and support. So the judge arrives at a decision. There was a process at arriving at that decision, but the reasons don't outline that process. What they do is they provide justification and support for the decision that was reached. They appeal to standards, regulations, prior practice, and prior decisions. So they provide the ground on which the new decision sits. They are arguments in support of a decision, not accounts of a decision process. And they are designed to persuade lawyers, other judges, academics, litigants, the general public. So how do audiences read these decisions? What are we getting out of them, we, as not members of the legal community, when we're reading a decision? Well, we're looking for transparency, that is, an understanding of why was this decision reached. We're also looking for these decisions to tell us what is right or to regulate our behavior. So this provides a window in the context of a particular case as to what we ought to be doing. For the losing party, reasons are particularly important. It turns out if you win a legal case, you're not concerned about why that decision was reached. But if you're on the losing side, you are really focused on why this decision and not another one. And in reading those reasons, the public is looking for both sides of the issue to be explained. They're looking for a flow from evidence to conclusion, but not a unified and untroubled flow. They want multiple reasons for a decision. They want an explanation that entertains and rejects alternatives. And they're looking for legal reasoning in those decisions, not appeals to public morality, not appeals to public decisions or public attitudes. That's what we're looking for in the context of these explanations. So explainable AI is going to be important in the context of judicial decisions. Judicial reasons provide us with a model of what explanations of judicial decisions need to look like. And those judicial reasons, both the ways in which they're arrived at and the purposes that they serve, will need to feed back to the production of explanations of AI decisions in the judicial context. Now, a different context will require different reasons. So it won't be that what we learn from the judicial context will translate naturally to every other context. The point is that the explanations we provide will have to be created for and created in the context of the purpose of those explanations. It's not a one-size-fits-all system. Thank you.